I actually feel like my entire life has been made for not just that experience, but every subsequent experience that's happened since then. When I finally got to the hospital, I remember them like pushing me down the hospital corridor and seeing the fluorescent lights pass my face one at a time. And actually, it's a very interesting story that I'll add, because this is why I feel like so many events in my life took place to have this moment, is that when I was very young in grade 2, they asked me to write a short story, any short story that I wanted for school, as a practice to like practice writing. And I wrote that I was being pushed down the corridor in a hospital towards my death, and that I could see the fluorescent lights passing my face one at a time, being pushed to my death. And I was only like maybe 7 at the time. And so my mom was like, why would you write about that? But in that moment, when I was getting pushed down the corridor to my death, in that moment, I was like, I understand that everything in this life is a destined path.
We're going to go back to 1971. I was 2 years old. And I have a couple memories from being 2. One is I remember playing in the sandbox with a Tonka truck. The second thing I remember from being 2 years old was I sat my parents down and I told them why I came to Earth. I remember like it was just yesterday, like it happened a minute ago too. And it's almost like I wasn't talking. Somebody sat me down in front of them and spoke out of my mouth, I swear, because I don't know how I could have told them this, but I have the memory. And I told them I came to Earth because I had to help deliver a important message to all of humanity one day. I know that sounds crazy, but that's exactly what I told them. And I said I had to learn all the languages there were as well. So that's how my life on this planet started, as far as I can remember. I don't remember coming into my mom's body, like a lot of my autistic friends tell me they remember that. My autistic friends have told me that they all, and these are over 100 that I can think of in my head, they all have told me the same thing, that we all, even those of us who aren't artistic, we all always choose our mother. So I have to believe that that's got to be somewhat true, because how can all these people from different parts of the world tell me the same thing and not be true? But
I saw this moment where I was sitting in an intersection and I needed to pull out, and there was a lot of traffic. So it was a left turn, waiting for a hole, it's rush hour, cars, 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 no break. And then I see this small spot, and I'm thinking, and squeeze myself in there. I think I'm going to have to squeeze myself in there, but it's probably going to make the person, behind me mad. And I did it. I pulled into traffic. And, I remember doing it as a human, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, now I can get home, right? Totally forgot about the person behind me. But from the other side, it was all about the other person. They were angry. They were not happy. I felt all that. I was them behind the wheel in their car driving. How's that even possible? Except that it is when you're on the other side, because it's a totally different set of physics, if you will, a totally different space, a way of interacting. And I felt terrible about it. Like, how could I do that? That was awful. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just waited my turn. So I was beating myself up, so to speak, about what seems like kind of trivial things here on Earth for most of us. And then there were a lot of bigger things, like, for instance, remembering some pre-birth planning. So my father was not a nice man to me. He was abusive. And I was able to see an answer to a lot of people who ask the question, why is there suffering here on earth? How can you have so much love and joy and peace on the other side and then have suffering here? It's not logical. So this is what I experienced in my near-death experience. I saw that I planned to come here with my soul family. My father is a part of my soul family, just one member in my soul family. And we all were playing parts in this play, if you will. And I'm only using those terms because it's the best term to describe how it works from this side of the veil. So let me pause for just a second with this. My understanding from all that and from my studies afterwards is that, we live these multiple lives. We do it not always as the same person. So sometimes I could be me, and sometimes I could be my father, and sometimes I could play, if you will, the person who is my mother. And the reason for that is to learn and grow and become my soul, my individual soul, but to learn and grow and become all of us, to learn and grow and become the one, the cosmic source, the cosmic consciousness that is where we all originally extend from. So, as we were planning this life together, I chose to play me, Angela, and come here. And here's the part about the suffering: to lovingly and graciously help the soul that is within my father grow and learn and become. So I chose to suffer. But again, stepping back out of my human body, I made that choice from the other side, where it's completely different than it is here. There is no time. This lifetime, instantaneous from the other side, very quick. The pain is a part of the growth. There is no pain on the other side. Like thinking back to my children, I saw my children's death. When I thought about leaving them behind, I was able to see what would happen to them if I stayed and didn't come back, and the pain. And I knew they would be there instantaneously. I knew that they were coming back to this space of love and light and peace, and everything would be okay then. So, when making these pre-birth plans, that's part of what went into it, is just this completely different perspective that is so hard to get to from your human self, from your human body. Yeah. So, yes, I saw that, I made this decision to come here and live out this life with this part of my family, to help my father to learn what it would be like to have these addictions, to help him learn to overcome those addictions. And my goal in that was to learn to use my voice and to speak out for what was right and just and true. And, have my learning and growth occur through that. And eventually I did. Eventually that's what happened. Um, so it's just, that whole part of that experience was so enlightening and helped me understand suffering from a whole different perspective, from the perspective of myself on the other side. And this interplay that we create with each other, which leads to that, and also the free will portion of that. That's sometimes why we have to keep coming back, is because we're using our free will in the moment. We're protected from our soul self living this human life, forgetting our true selves, and then free will becomes what can allow us to make these different choices. So, our agreement to feel and learn and be challenged really comes through a lot of that free will. So it was great to be able to see both points of view and to engage and deeply, learn from that experience. So really, the part of the suffering there is learning to reconcile suffering with this other place that is all love and peace and happiness, and to let go of our human ego, to think of it as from the other viewpoint, not from our ego-based viewpoint, and to reconnect with that loving space. So really, the part of the suffering there is learning to reconcile suffering with this other place that is all love and peace and happiness,